Hey everybody, it's live app review episode, I don't know, 30 maybe. Yes, okay, sure. I'm getting some signals here. We're here with Chad Lamont, we got James Waugh, we got Dorian Kircher, and we got Vadim Ilan.
Yep.
Who's always chilling like a villain. So today we're going to look at my side project. I'm really excited, and that's why we have a whole kind of cast of characters here to ask questions. The project's name is Generate, or GNR8. It's a generative art project, and today we'll kind of swerve around and dive anywhere really, but I do want to spend some time focusing on the app itself, because while it does rely on some very new NFT contracts where we have token types and what I call lazy minting, the app itself is very intricate because it's rendering generative art and code in iframes with parameters that are pulled from on-chain metadata. So it's like pretty cool. Hey, James Young just joined us as well. This is awesome.
Hey,
join our merry band.
Woo!
So this is like the grilling. So I'm going to show my project, and then you guys are just going to poke away. So I'm going to try to do the screen share, kind of show off the project portion relatively quick. So here I go. Share my screen. Okay, so we are looking at Generate, and Generate is a generative art marketplace where the art pieces can be interactive. So I'm clicking on these NFTs here. You'll notice that this one is different from this one. That these are Conway's Game of Life, and they're basically have different seed variables. This is actually the series, and this is one of the minted tokens. So I'm gonna use this example quite heavily because it's a great generative art example to understand all that's going on with Generate, the platform. So right away, I'll just kind of do a very high level kind of overview. So you could see you have a few different sections that you can jump off into. We'll touch on create last, but I want to go through the marketplace and the series and things like that, and the minting process just as a user first. And then this is just your account. I just knocked off the .testnet, but basically you can just sign in and sign out over there. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at a bunch of different tokens, and they're actually mixed in with some series. So this is a token, but it's not for sale. This is a token that is for sale. And then this is a series with the 199 out of 200. So there's 199 left to be minted. And there's a price here to mint them. It's one NEAR. So you can see already kind of somebody has bought one of the honey series. I don't know why I called it honey. I guess it just kind of looked like some honey or something, I guess. I don't know. But basically somebody bought one and they minted it with a particular seed parameter, and then they put it up for sale for 2 NEAR. So let's go through the process of just, I'm a user and I see a series like honey and I think that's a cool series. I want to buy it. And remember, like, so my user is si1.testnet, and this has been minted by md1.testnet. So I'm going to jump in here, and this takes me to /mint for the series honey. So while I'm here, I can see, okay, it's 199 out of 200, it's 1 NEAR, but I have a parameter here that I can edit. So see this little guy over here and this here, and these just sort of make like a visual reference here of where these things are. And if I change the seed to 3, I get kind of a different pattern going on. And so I can search through the kind of the Conway Game of Life parameters until I'm happy with my seed, and then I can choose to mint the token. And there's an about section here where it'll just tell you about it. This is important too. Minting asks for more than the list price to pay for storage of your unique arguments on chain. I should probably change the copy. by the way, like no one else is working on this except for me. I've had a few chats with some people just for like high level direction. So it's the copywriting, the design, it's all me. So if it's crap, you can let me know. And there are going to be some JavaScript dialogues that are going to pop up because I haven't completely kind of finished the UI. But basically, it's going to charge me more than 1 NEAR, and anything that is not used for the storage of this argument, like just storing like, an unsigned integer, like that's nothing, is going to be returned to me. So I'm going to click mint and I'm going to jump in and I'm going to allow that. So it was charging me 1.1, but I'm going to get quite a lot of that back, like 0.95 NEAR will come back to my account. You can check this all in the Explorer, but that's kind of boring. So then I come back here, which is probably not a perfect redirect experience, obviously. So you can go to the market and you can see that I have minted Honey 1, and that's owned by me. And Honey 0 was owned by md1.testnet, right? Like the creator of the series. But now there's a Honey that's owned by me, somebody else. I can also find this under collection too. So I have Honey 1 and I have this other. This is sort of a dynamically generated example for my test runner or whatever. So that's why it has a weird name. But basically Honey 1, I created, as a different user prior to this call. So what's cool here is that from your collection, you can click on a token. And now this is where it starts to get really cool. There are these owner parameters. I'm going to have to make it full screen here, actually. I just want to keep everything on screen at once. So right now, there's been no updates from the token from when it was minted. But because I'm the owner and only the owner can do this, I could switch it. I could switch the account and show you, oh, only the owner can do this. But that's, just trust me, only the owner can do this. So if I start to edit parameters, you can see update appears here. And I can change things like color. So that's like the color of the little Conway Life, particles or whatever. So I can make something like this. I can take this blur, or I think opacity is more interesting to play with. So I make that 1. So that looks kind of cool, techno, whatever. So there you go. So something kind of a little bit cooler, a little bit more fun, and kind of, I guess, like glitch in 8-bit or whatever. So I can update, and it's asking me for some amount of NEAR, and that's because I may have added arguments. Like, one of the arguments could actually be an array in the future. I haven't done this yet, but it could actually be expanding. So people could just be adding and adding and adding. And in that case, they'll have to pay for storage on chain. So I charge a little bit of NEAR, but whatever's not used, you get refunded. So basically, that's that. And then you can sell it. So I can put it up for sale for like 2 NEAR. And remember, my user is si1.testnet, and I can log out and log back in as MD1. So I'll go to the market. So Honey is there. It should be for sale. I hope it didn't mess up. I'm going to try to sign in as MD1. Should be for sale, or maybe something screwed up. I don't think, oh no, it's not for sale. Darn, that sucks. Okay, well, this one is for sale. So I'm just gonna go back as SI1. I obviously have like a little bug there in the listing for sale. But it did work. It did work previously. I've just been messing around with this all morning, so I probably screwed something up. Let's go back as SI1 and let's buy. So remember, this Honey was minted by MD1. And so I can just buy that directly for 2 NEAR. And then that token becomes mine. So I'll have 2 Honey tokens as SI1. One that was, so now they're owned by me. And so if I go to my collection, I have this Honey 1 from MD1 that I bought for 2 NEAR. And then I have the one that I minted myself. And why would you buy this for 2 NEAR when this one was already minted? Maybe it was minted with a particular seed or whatever that you found interesting, because once you mint an artwork using the minting parameters, they can never be changed, but the owner parameters can be changed. So these parameters can be changed after you've already minted the artwork.
But
Yeah.
may I ask you, please, when you
Sure.
update these owner parameters, do you save it as a metadata in the NFT?
Yes. So it gets saved on chain. So Vadim's question was, so let's go say I go to the series, all the series that are available, these triangles, and let's say I try to mint, a red background triangle. Okay, so go mint it. So that minting parameter gets saved on chain, and then and that at the time of minting, that's a one-time operation, so it can never be. And as you see this, the total supply of these triangles is running out. So there could be a situation where there's only 10, and once they're minted with the minting parameters, that's it, it's over. So that's what I find kind of cool about this. There's like a bit of a scarcity to it. So you see I own these red triangles now, and I can actually update the speed. So I can make them go all like wild. Oh, I don't know why it reverted. Oh, actually I do. The background color, it reverted to black. But if I update this, it'll be the combination of red plus the fast triangles. So there's another bug. This is why it's good to do a bit of a review. Okay, so there we go. So that's my token, and now it's actually on chain. To answer Vadim's question, it's on chain. Like, so the speed at which the triangles rotate and the background color is on chain metadata now. And then when I post that up for sale, somebody's buying that, but they can change the speed, but no longer the background color. We're all good so far? So I have one last thing I want to do, and then I'm going to shut up and we'll do some questions, and we can keep poking around here, and then we can jump into the code. We can look at different pieces, which I think will be kind of fun. But yeah, I just want to show the create kind of UI and just kind of a little bit about what's going on here. This is all bumped out for some reason. It should actually be, it's just formatting. It should be back a little bit, but basically, I didn't know, I had no idea like if there was like a proper syntax for this, but I didn't want to have like multiple tabs and multiple files. I just wanted this to be like a sketch, like a sketching app. So what I chose is I chose like a bit of a sort of a pre and post kind of decorator syntax here, which is like really, I mean, it's not like the best, but it's also not, it's not like god awful. So there's like @params, @CSS, @JS. You could take stuff like, you could put like a margin on the body here if you wanted. Oh, whoops. I think you have to write actual CSS. So you could put like margin on the body. And then I think, I can't scroll right now inside here, but basically you can edit the CSS, you can actually inject like HTML if you want. So you can add like an @HTML section and put like something in there. But the real kind of meat and potatoes of the whole kind of idea here is that you set up these parameters, the minting parameters, the owner parameters, the max supply, and you load packages. So you can actually load packages, and you can go here and you can see the packages that are already loaded. There's only 3. You can filter them. You can add a new package. So this just comes up with a series of JS dialogues, so it'd be like, let's say you wanted to add Pixie.js, Pixie.js at, 2.10, whatever, right? And then it would just ask you, where's the URL for this, blah, 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 and all this, so on and so forth. And then you'd have to actually pay to store that. So the question comes back to like, where are the CDNs resolved from, and like all this stuff, and like, hey, I thought we were building art on blockchain, aren't CDNs bad? So I took the approach of the artist can specify a library if they want, like a package, but they don't have to use the packages. So if they choose to use a package, and they are the first one sort of declaring the name and the version of this particular package, they can add the first CDN URL, and what will happen at that moment in time is that the package will be fetched, it will be hashed on their machine, and the source hash of the CDN URL resolution, like the actual code itself, the hash of the code itself will also be stored on chain. So there's never really going to be an instance where someone will try to load this artwork and load it with like some arbitrary malicious package or whatever. I mean, you could if you had a bad front end, but at least the data on chain is trying to preserve the artist's original intention. So let's say the CDN goes down, other people can add mirrors to the same package, but provided that the well, it actually doesn't do any enforcing on chain, but anyone can add mirrors really. But what you do is you pull down the mirror URLs, pull down the source hash, and you should go fetch the mirror URL, check the hash, and make sure that it matches up with the source hash from on chain in order to show the artist's original work, original intention. So the idea there is not to solve the whole CDN links going dead issue, but just to provide like a way for the artist to indicate that this is what they originally wanted to be shown. So I'm not solving that issue by any means, but I'm just kind of like, I wanted to use packages because I also didn't want to store like a whole crap load of code on chain. So this processing code, basically the JavaScript is kind of like the juicy parts. This is how you kind of like bind the minting arguments and the owner arguments into your code. So you just have to cast it over here to like a JavaScript variable. So what ends up happening is that whatever interface you're inside, Generate the app, whatever you're putting as an argument for seed or an argument for speed or blur or whatever will get just like regex replaced in here, and then that will get cast to this variable, and then boom, it just works. So you see, you go from like, this is specifying what's available and the defaults, and then it goes from here to here to here, and then that sets the random seed for the Conway example. Yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to show right now and just explain that stuff. And if you guys want to go a little deeper on any section, we can like jump into code and we can look at that. How do I get out of here? We can jump into code and we could start picking apart the pieces of the app, or we could just kind of stay here at a high level, like chit chat about it.
Yeah, I think this is like honestly really cool. And like, I have a few questions. So like, okay, so users can add their packages or their CDN, and then that's how they can get new forms of like dynamic art to appear on this, like on your application. Like, will the like generator, the creator of the code, like be granted like, I guess like when it's be like, will they be granted like royalties upon each minting process or each trading of these like NFTs?
Yeah, that's a good question about royalties. So I actually haven't decided on that. So I'm a creator. So there's two types of creators here, really, when you think about it. There's a series creator, and then if you look at a series, there's a person who mints a series. So the series creator is sort of one type of royalty, and then the person who mints one token out of the series could, like, if I go here and I want to mint a unique one, so I say, okay, my seed parameter is 20. Oh, it's the best, and then I specify a royalty here, and then I mint it. I'm kind of like a co-collaborator, right? So if the artist is already taking 5%, I could put my token down here, and I could say, okay, well, I get 2%, and then after that point, once it's actually created as an NFT. I personally don't feel like any sort of adjustments to the royalties are necessary. It's sort of like series artist gets a royalty, original minter gets a royalty, and then that's it. That's sort of where it goes from there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that actually makes sense. And then like when it comes to like the packages that they load, like is it like I don't know if it's like maybe too far into the future if you have right now, but like, are there like standards that like the designers will have to like be able to incorporate different tools, if that makes sense? Like, for the way you can change your speed or.
Oh, well, you'll have to take like a series, and you'll have to make a new series to make different minting parameters and different stuff like that. Like, for example, like I could move speed up here, and then speed will just become a minting parameter. So when somebody creates this, they can set, for example, they can set the frame rate. They can make it really slow. You see how it's slowed down, or they can make it really fast.
Cool.
So actually I can just go and do that right now, actually. So you can, I didn't show you guys an example of creating a series. So what's the name of the series? It's Dorian. Sell the series now. And again, I told you there would be these ugly JS dialogues, but I'm going to sell the series now for a price of 1 NEAR. And I think I left the max supply at 200. So it's just still 200. What's interesting about this, actually, this is one thing I didn't tell you all about yet, is that there's still no NFT that has been created, like at least not in the sense of a core NEAR NFT. When the NFT gets created, it is actually minted on the fly. So in this process here, so now you can see I have access to the speed parameter, so I can make a really slow Conway game of life thing and just choose a seed, whatever, and then I can mint that. And at this point in time, the NFT is being created. So it sort of a series is kind of like a blueprint for an NFT, or it won't show here yet, but if you go to the market, you'll see the slow one here. So if you think about the series that's created as sort of a blueprint, and then the each mint is sort of like the actual tokens, right? This still here, sitting here, this one here is not an NFT. It's still just a series, a blueprint that is waiting to be minted. So, and there's only been a Dorian :0 minted out of this entire series. So there aren't 200 NFT tokens is what I'm trying to say. I want to go and show you just because some people might be interested, like, hey, how fast could you like add this Pixie.js? Because I haven't added it yet. So I don't think it actually, oh, whoops. No, it does matter when I eventually type it in here, but I'm going to create a series, name a series. I'm just going to call it Pixie at, I don't know what the version number was. So Pixie at 5. I'm just going to make a mess. Oh, whoops. No, I'm creating a series. I have to get out of here. Sorry. Again, my JavaScript dialogues are terrible. I have to add a show packages, add new package. Okay. So Pixie at 5. I don't know what the version number is. CDN URL is that. So it was actually 5.1.3. Say, okay, pay for storage. So all I'm doing is storing the CDN URL and the Pixie at 5. And then I can come back here and I can say Pixie at 5, which is obviously going to screw up this processing JS example because it was using the processing JS. But in the JavaScript, now I can go to a demo and I can just look at some code. I don't know, that's not going to work because it has a bunch of textures, maybe like some primitives or something like this would work. I don't know where the source code is. Yeah, something like this. So, oh boy, this is not the way that I would like to do it, but okay, so I think that just allows me to copy that. So let's let's jump back here and let's paste.
I saw some URLs for images there, so I don't believe.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, PNG files.
Oh man. Okay, well, I'll just have to edit it out over here. I'll just kind of cut out that object or whatever. It's gonna have all sorts of issues. I have never tried to do this, by the way. So maybe it's that one. So, but then that's not gonna actually, that's gonna have a whole bunch of problems. Sprite. I'll have to look for it.
Maybe just put a full URL using that domain.
Yeah, that might work actually. So it's just gonna be example 13. Let's test it first. You can tell Vadim is like a web hacker from like back in the day. Yeah, that worked. Okay. Oops. I keep going back to my IDE. I have like muscle memory from doing that. Okay. So that works, but then it's probably looking for something. So my next guess is that it's looking for some sort of thing to like mount to that I don't have in here. I don't know what the error would be. no package pixie at 5. Oops. Oh. It's yeah, it's not getting the package, but it's also not even loading the right package. It's starting to look for like pixie at, so I don't know what is happening here. Oh, pixie.stage is not a constructor. Okay, so when you load from a CDN, you probably have to do something to like create this pixie object. So I don't really know what I'm doing. So that was with not 3JS, but with another CDN library for WebGL. I had to actually create this instance somewhere. Otherwise it just wouldn't go. So I don't know if they did it or not, or somehow. It should just be on the window at the time that you loaded it. But anyways, I would have to fool around with a package that I knew a little bit better, and I knew kind of what I was doing. But sorry about that. You can also inspect these iframes. You can kind of check in, or no, should be here. There's an iframe just kind of hanging out, but with some stuff in it. And just make sure that it is actually loading the right script. So you could double check that. Looks like it's loading Pixie.js. There's var pixie right there. So I don't know why it would say that it's pixie.stage is not a constructor. I don't really know what that means. All right. Well, I guess that one's not going to work. Or this example is probably like using an ancient, version of Pixie.js that has pixie.stage as a constructor. Not sure. We'd have to check the docs, but that would be really boring, wouldn't it? Any other kind of like comments, questions about this in general?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think it's a great opportunity for something like a gaming. For example, if you have any game and you have character and you can put owner parameters, like if you have any meta game, say you have only 20 points and you have to split, I don't know, 10 health or 5, I don't know, speed, stamina or something. And they will fight, which is each other, different NFT tokens. And as soon as you have to think what will be the meta game, you will win or lose.
Yeah, I don't know if I got your idea 100%. I think you actually just suggested three different businesses and ideas in one comment. But let me try to speak to a couple of different things. Like, so people are looking at lazy minting, and let's look at the code for a second here, actually. So they're looking at like token types and token series as a way to so here's a series as I've sort of like defined it. We have, series arguments, minting owner. We have the parameters for when you create the series. Like some of this is just stuff coming in as JSON, but then here's the series. So you have a series name, source for the code itself. How long is the source in bytes? Royalties, the owner ID, and stuff like that. But I think one of your comments was really interesting, Vadim, about gaming. So a lot of people have said, okay, this is great, because what ends up happening is like in a game, you have a bunch of characters and they're running around and there's some game logic contract. So let's imagine there's a contract called game, and it governs how people can mint one of a series of like limited tokens. So let's say over in some other area, there are cars or swords or guns or something to be had, right? Like a generation 5 sword with certain criteria, and there's only 100 of them. So then you have this game contract and these players are fighting each other and doing stuff, and then maybe through some on-chain randomness or through an oracle or through some commit reveal kind of game inside the game contract, they get awarded one of the random kind of swords to choose from, and that gives them like a pass to go over and to mint that item. And so the game developer themselves doesn't have to pre-mint or pre-mine all of these NFTs. They can just set up like 20, 30, 40 different series of NFTs, and then have the players themselves interact until they discover, or I mean, like it's kind of like mining, you know, mining through gameplay, each of the NFTs. So then they get like sort of credits or passes or whatever to go mine the NFT. They go to the sword contract. There's only 100 of them, and they mint one of the swords. And then they go, okay, that's great. And now I own this sword. Then they can use it. If the NFT itself was upgradable, they could use it, defeat enemies. The sword itself could gain, you know, experience points, and then they could sell it for higher on a secondary market. So this is like the dream, of course. And you know, doesn't have to be in gaming, could also be applied to the management of like an art DAO, or something where you have, you know, you have artists coming in and they need to receive a certain amount of votes so that they are allowed to either create a series of NFTs themselves or mint an NFT from an existing series and add a layer on top of that NFT. So if you're doing something kind of like layered artwork or collaborative artwork, you could actually have, you know, like a DAO curated sort of membership or voting in of artists and their ability to kind of like mint new NFTs on top of an existing series. And then the actual final artwork would be the composite of all the NFTs that were minted out of a particular group. So let's say I make a piece of art and I call it, you know, Matt's masterpiece, and I say there's only 10 available slots, and people come in and they mint, but then they add, you know, their piece of artwork, and then the final version is just a layer of all of those artworks. So I think there's a lot of like gamification kind of potential and fun stuff to do.
This is really interesting because it puts in this notion of crafting into NFTs, like you were just talking about when you're layering. So like you can level up and you can have different types of logic. And I think that it'd be interesting to get people into DAOs somehow via NFTs and this crafting. You can have like Guild Wars or DAO Wars or something like that, like a very simple game. It just gets my mind spinning in terms of like, what are old types of like hyper casual social games that we can actually map onto this and just put on chain. Because the artwork and all of that from these old social games, you can like buy them on these like social game marketplaces for like $1,000. You get all the artwork, you just have, and you get all the internationalization, you just change the copy. So you can have, you know, because it's all like organized via the like string variables. So you can just outsource and just change the copy up, and then just tie this on chain somehow. It's cool. It's cool.
I love that idea. Yeah. I mean, you can think of a lot of like kind of old school kind of apps and just sort of collaborative kind of things that people were doing on computers even pre-internet, you know, and little games people were playing, like even if you go back to like Telnet, and people are making like word adventures and stuff. And then I actually, James, that's really funny you mentioned that, because like one of the idea I had was prior to this idea, I wanted to create like a choose your own adventure story, but each page in the story was an NFT. And then that NFT could be sold. And then if you are the owner of the NFT, you can change the story. So what matters is it depends on how the story is sort of displayed or where you're dropped into the story. So for example, like you could just have like a front end that basically just says, start me somewhere random, or start me from the quote unquote, the official beginning. And then the real estate at the official beginning is obviously going to be higher priced, because everyone has to go through those paths to get to subsequent paths, and so on and so forth. Like it could be like really kind of, or you could have a DAO that votes to recenter the story somewhere else in the graph, right? So you could have like the actual network kind of choose a new route based on the community, and so everyone who actually owns property in the story graph could be a voter in the DAO to choose to like vote on a proposal to recenter the story itself. And it just starts to get like mind blowing, like, because it just starts to like compound on and on and on. And I think what we're all like why I wanted to bring some other people into this call too, like James Waugh and stuff, is like we're all interested in this stuff to see how we might positively coordinate towards creating some really epic work together as people across the internet, across borders, across different conceptions of like, you know, of value and exchange and interests. So
have you reached out to Simon de la Rouvier? He had this concept where it was like a chain letter, and you get a forward, you know, the story, but you had to hold the token, and you sold this like ERC20 token, I think it was. But this is actually more embedded, and now he has a new project called Untitled, where he's writing.
Oh, cool.
You know, Simon was very early when it came to like TCRs and voting, and then also NFTs. He may be interested in like understanding this as well, because I think he would be interested, but he just doesn't know that this exists.
Well, yeah, and that's a part of the, I mean, that's part of the thing that I went through, like when I proposed composable NFTs like 3 years ago. Like it was crazy. Time flies. But one of the struggles I went through was just like, you know, like just like totally abhorrent gas fees, you know, for like bundling and unbundling like NFTs, like stuff a bunch of stuff inside an NFT. Okay, now take it all out, right? Because you want to break it apart and sell it. That's actually where I met James Waugh back in the day. I mean, virtually. We met just out of that whole community. But yeah, and a lot of people, I mean, I was just discussing with somebody yesterday or on Tuesday that it was sort of like table stakes. NFTs, you know, link out to IPFS or some other decentralized storage, hash, make sure that kind of lines up, kind of like what I was doing with those packages. Like just make sure the hash kind of syncs and you're all good. That's what the artist intended. Okay, now you own an integer, go sell it on a marketplace. You know, like it's kind of garden variety at this point. And so I think what people sort of need to do is get that next kind of leap into things, and the next leap into the gamification, the coordination, and the collaboration around what we're creating here, which is essentially, I mean, we're creating like living, breathing, upgradable, like craftable, collapsible, expandable digital merchandise and digital goods, like virtual inventory. And I think it's really powerful. I was also speaking to one of the NEAR gurus or like super coders, Eugene the Dream. I think like most people know him from, you know, live contract review and stuff like that. And we were talking about, you know, what is NEAR, the blockchain, specifically kind of tuned for? Like if you actually had to say, put it up against other chains with other sort of pros and cons and technical sort of designs. And we both kind of agreed and converged on the fact that NEAR is not a decentralized storage solution, but it's pretty cheap and it has a good storage model. So you can actually stuff quite a bit of like data in, and you can actually do really funky and fast and cheap operations on data structures, which is really essential for applications like DAOs and games and NFTs and digital merch and like different game mechanics around the digital merch. NEAR is async, which super helpful because, you know, a contract can call a contract, can call another contract, and that doesn't happen sync within the same like sort of block time space. So it can actually happen across a little bit more time because it's gonna, each cross contract call is gonna just hop forward like 1 or 2 seconds to the next block. So that actually is helpful because you can fire off from one contract, you can fire off like 5 async calls, and then they can just be like resolved. And then eventually, once they're all done, they can call back to the original contract, like kind of doing a promise.all. So that kind of coding, especially on chain, is really powerful. And then the last point is kind of about how NEAR is more finely tuned for smaller transactions, but more frequent, right? So like a little less of the big. If you, I don't know if you've ever looked at like an ETH NFT, or sorry, an ETH DeFi transaction. It's like a monster, like especially the flash loan ones, like where it's like, go here, borrow this, swap this, borrow again, like swap this, blah, blah, blah. And they pay just like a horrendous amount of gas, but because it's sync and because you can get that all in one block, they can do it. But NEAR is not really tuned for that. So, you know, it is kind of like designed for more of a, like kind of a fun, fast, gamified kind of consumer landscape of projects or products, you know.
I have a question based
James
on
Wah, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just
What?
joking. Come on down.
This question better be good. Just wondering about an example you brought up with characters building reputation and selling avatars or items within games. I'm trying to simplify envisioning a contract or like a minting a series with rules for like 100 players to set their, you know, powers according to some specification, like each player gets 100 points, and maybe there's 3, you know, owner parameters that represent the dimensions of where you can spend those points in creating your character. So like you get some speed or power or intelligence, you know, those 3, and you can only spend 100 points, but each has a max of 100, you know, possible points. So that's the simplified example of a series. What I'm wondering is if mentors, you know, the lazy mentors, you know, who actually use the application playing the game, can they take those tokens, which are of the type you mentioned, the series, can they take them and then further mint copies of their character with different arrangements of that you know, 3-dimensional space? Or is it just you mint that and it can be changed, you know, like for the game of life example, if you change one of the owner parameters, can you go mint that as an NFT that can be sold?
I understand where you're going with this. Yeah. So a lot of stuff there. But one cool thing I wanted to hone in on is you mentioned, okay, I just want to share my screen one more time because I like to share the code because I like people to know, like, hey, I'm not just a guy who talks. So series create and approve, series create. Yeah. So I have this internal method, but you have to kind of hone in on this. One thing I wanted to show y'all, and I'm going to get back to your second, like I thought you kind of had two, one thought and one question there, James. So 1 second. So if you look at this series create internal, where is it? Oh yeah, here it is. So there is no series with name already exists. Hang on. Where is it? It is no. Where is it? Hang on, guys. Sorry. There's something that is enforced here. It has to do with the parameters. Where did I put it though? I don't know. It's kind of like, for some reason, it's like hidden from me right now. It is, I don't know where this went. Oh, sorry, it's not under the series. It's not even in that file. It's under minting. So when you mint a series, so James's first kind of thought that I thought was really cool was the mechanics around what can you mint out of a series, and what if that was somehow parameterized by some finite supply of, let's say, like a fungible token or something. So instead of being given some NEAR tokens to mint, or what if we had users who weren't even crypto users and we just wanted to give them a NEAR access key to some account or some balance of let's call it like you know, minting juice, and they had 100 minting juice tokens to spend, and they could only choose 3 different parameters, and it's for a new character. So they can choose, you know, 60% speed, 20% strength, 20% defense, right? So something like that. And I just wanted to show you that I did have a thing where no 2 tokens of the same minting parameters can be minted. Yes, and here's how I did it. So what I did was I included there's a parameter for the series called enforce unique arguments. So when you go to mint a token, so James, let's just simplify the example a little bit. Let's say you mint an artwork out of a series with a background color of red. Okay, so just, you know, red is like 255,0,0. Okay, red, right? If I go and I try to mint that, what it's going to do is it's going to hash the series name, plus it's going to join all of the minting arguments together. So if the series was, you know, artwork, then it would be artwork 255,0,0. And then what would happen is my version would basically receive a hash, James's version would receive a hash. And then if I went to mint the same artwork with a red background, it wouldn't work because it's been sort of added to this series arg hashes. So anyway, that's just something I wanted to show you guys, because I don't think I touched on that, is that the artist can choose when they create the series, whether they should enforce unique minting parameters or not. And so in the case of the Conway game of life, each seed has to be unique in the example that I was showing you. And that means that everyone's Conway game must be different. And so each token is going to be visually different, but also different because of the on-chain metadata. So I just thought that was kind of cool. And then I wanted to follow up on your question, James. I think I know where you're going. You're going like, so if you create a series that mints a token, can that token be a series that mints other tokens? Because I know you're quite a multi-dimensional kind of person. I think you could do that. The way that I currently have the contract set up, it's not actually set up for that. There's a couple of different ways to go about it. So you mint a series, and then if somebody, you know, mints a token out of that series, that NFT could be used to basically patch through and recursively, like that NFT could be used as a pass to go mint a new series. And then that series could be based on, like, you could just take the arguments from this token and pass it up into the series and make that the default arguments for the next series. And then you could keep going and so on and so forth. So I think I could create like a recursive loop here that could be pretty powerful. And then you'd end up with this graph of like series of series of series. They'd all kind of look like forks of each other, depending on how you did the source code or whatever you want to call it, like the base representation and arguments, depending on how those kind of like interacted. It could look like forks, like branches off a tree, like recursive, or it could look completely different, like where a series of another series would kind of come out to be almost like its own island. But yeah, good question. Really cool stuff. Yeah, there's a lot you can do here. It's almost mind-boggling. I had to stop myself. Like I was contemplating like, oh, you know, every NFT that gets minted is gonna generate X number of fungible tokens daily, and then we're going to use those, and we're going to vote into a DAO, and then the DAO will allow people to make the series. And I was like going to tie it all together. But then once I got to this point where I was like, okay, I've got series making tokens and anyone can make a series, I was just like, maybe that's enough for now. Like maybe that's enough for a V1, that like people can just come and like, kind of mess around with artwork and then come and like mint off of each other's artwork. Because I see two types of people like in the NFT like space. I see like, there's definitely like the hardcore like NFT artists, like the 3D modelers, the coders. Even the 3D modelers know a little bit of code and stuff to like do really intricate stuff. So there's like the modelers, the designers, the artists, the coders, and then there's the collectors. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of see if I could get them to kind of play in a space where there's like crossover. And that is like in that minting function where the artist says, okay, you can mint this, but if you wanna just twist the dial just a little bit, if you wanna have a feeling like you're kind of doing something wicked with code, you can try these dials and see what you get. And then that's where the collaboration with the collector or the buyer comes into play.
Super cool.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that. So I think, despite there's a couple of hiccups in the demo I showed you guys at first, I guess the timeline is basically, we started a channel in the NEAR Discord, just called I always forget how to spell it, GNR8, Generate. And I will be deploying it like once I kind of get I got to get rid of those JavaScript dialogues and like double check that people can't get like super stuck, because I don't want to have to chat with every single person and have everybody having the same problem. So and then James, I've invited you into the channel. I've got Jordan in there as well. Jordan was sort of like an early sounding board. He was pretty helpful. We spent a couple of late nights like on Pacific time, just like having like 30-minute chats where I would show him everything I did and I'd be like, what do you think? And he would be like, well, yeah, I don't know, that's kind of complicated, or, that's cool, like that, like definitely keep that. So we had some sounding board sessions, and then really it was just like the technical side of like sort of doing essentially what is like a multi-token standard plus a lazy minting kind of flow. I wouldn't even call it a standard, but I had already done kind of multi-token stuff with James Young before on some of the Collabland stuff. So it was kind of easy to draft off of that and then build that out into series and then have the series posted up for sale. That was actually the real tough part, because those are two different smart contracts and they have to talk to each other. And so when you post a series for sale on the marketplace, it has to come along with certain information, and then it sits on that contract, and then somebody comes and buys a series. Well, it has to go make an NFT, like what's called an NFT transfer payout call to pay out royalties and all that other stuff. But as that NFT transfer payout call is happening, it has to be minting a token. So it needs to like kind of come from the marketplace with enough info to basically identify itself. Hi, I'm a series. I don't actually exist as a token, but you want to buy me, and you want to buy me. Not only do you want to buy me, you want to buy me with these special minting arguments that this person, is collaborating with this artist about. So getting all that to kind of happen and like to be like smooth as well. So you notice it's only one click to create a series and put it up for sale. So that's actually really cool, because like in some Ethereum apps, you got to do click, 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 approve, do this, do that. And like, if every time you're like popping up a MetaMask or being redirected to the NEAR wallet, that's annoying. So I got it down to like the one click flow all the way through, create like a code series, put the parameters in, put the max supply, click it, agree to sell it, set a base price, go. And then it's up on the marketplace. And then the user comes in and they can mint and purchase one of the series with one transaction. So that's like my goal, was to keep the UX like super simple. I don't know if you guys have any sort of quick questions, but we're kind of at time now, so we can shut her down. So we'll stop the recording. Thanks everybody for showing up and like you know, giving me your thoughts, feedback, suggestions. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. This was
Yeah,
great.
thank you, Matt.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Thanks, Matt.